Hi everybody, Russ from My Hammers 11. Hope you're safe and well. If not bloody cold, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon so you made away any times put new content on. As always, I'd like to thank our lovely channel sponsors, Untuck It. Check them out in the description below. Today's guest, another ex-Hammer. We've had over 50 of them on the channel, which is incredible considering we've only started it in lockdown, the first lockdown. It's Adrian Whitbread. Hi Adrian, how are you, man?
Yeah, very good. Rush yourself.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Keep him warm, keep him warm. Got my jacket.
Yeah, trying to. I mean, I think it's the ideal place at the moment in time to be, but I think we still need to get out and get some fresh air. But I don't think people want to venture outside too far.
Too fresh. You skid over as well. I know where you live, and it's like, yeah, it's the same with me. You got a fresh dust of the snow today, and it's just like on top of the other snow, and oh dear. It's not great. It's not great, but it is, as you said. You know, with the first lockdown, it was lovely because it was all 30 degrees. You know, it was lovely. We could get away with that. Now it's actually freezing at the moment. So, as you said, we can't go anywhere for the next couple of weeks at least. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, we were very lucky, like you say, in the first lockdown with the weather. Yeah. And unfortunately, I think with the second and third waves that have gone on, I think it's been a lot more tougher. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. How have you been throughout the sort of the lockdown period?
Not too bad. I mean, I'd sort of in between, I'd still been doing some football stuff. Obviously, with being overseas and then coming back, I think that's been the biggest bugbear. It's been difficult to get back into the game. So, you know, most recently I've teamed up with, through a friend of a friend, a woman that runs Campione Academy actually in Chigwell. And I did some summer clinics with her, sort of social distancing to start with, small groups, and then that sort of led into some sort of holiday work when the kids were off school. And most recently, actually at the start of lockdown, I've had this idea for a long time about doing my own elite clinics, and just feel that the younger generation don't really go out and practice as much as what they should do, because it's all done in a team environment now. So we're in the process of doing that. So that's exciting. I mean, that was meant to happen probably in the summer holidays last year. You know, was when we were looking at it. So, you know, Campione Elite and AWEFC is kind of ready to go coming out of lockdown. I'm pretty sure kids will want to be outside more than what they will do on their laptop, iPads and phones.
Well, you think so, wouldn't you? You bloody well hope so. It's I don't know how we'd cope if we had to do this, like, you know, 15, 20 years ago. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like no Netflix, no iPads, no YouTube, and
well, you know what, Russ? Back then, and this is the reason why I've done it, is, you know, really back then there wasn't this around, you know, and you know, you used to go out and play with your mates, and you know, you'd be gone at 7 o'clock in the morning and maybe make one telephone call from a payphone, the red telephone box, and call your mum and dad just to let them know that you're safe and sound. And then you'd be an hour late coming home because you wanted to make the most of the daylight that was going on into the evening. We just used to play out. And I know it doesn't sound very sort of entertaining, but that's what we did as kids, you know. And you know, it was the old saying, jumpers were goalposts. You used to put your sweat tops down or your bags down and make 2 goals and kick around and play football and play Wembley and, you know, headers and volleys.
Yeah, next goal's a winner. You know, it's always next goal's a winner.
You used your imagination. You pretended you were certain players that were playing in that era that you looked up to, and you know, you watch World Cups and Euros and you absolutely love the game. And I just think nowadays it's just too easy just to pick the phone up and go on social media, and you know, it takes away a lot of what kids should really be doing, is getting out and about.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. With an 8-year-old daughter trying to compete with, I don't know, some Australian kids she watches on YouTube, it's difficult. It's difficult, you know.
It's rough with TikTok now, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Oh God, yeah. I can't get you. Although, to be honest, you know, she's done well because she sorts out. It's like my mother. We moved my mother-in-law in, you know, just because, you know, she's on her own, and yeah, she's sort of sorted it all out of her FaceTime and her WhatsApp, so she can talk to all her friends and stuff. So, you know, it's useful to have a young tech support person around the house now. But
well, that's it. I mean, the generation before us have got no idea of how to use it, have they? You know, and let alone, I know with my old man, you know, emails and even text messaging, he's just got no enthusiasm to do, and he'd rather not know. And so then you get drawn into that one and doing it for him. But yeah, that's what we're here for, let's be honest.
Exactly. And you know, from a West Ham perspective, West Ham are doing. I don't think I could cope with West Ham having a West Ham typical season and having a lockdown. So the fact that we're doing all right at the moment makes things a bit better for me, to be honest.
Probably says a lot. Probably says a lot that the crowd's not allowed in the stadium, right? Let's be honest.
Typical, isn't it? It's so typical, isn't it? It's typical, isn't it? You know, it's but no, it's and as an ex-player, Adrian, I mean, you played for obviously a few different clubs. Do you, when the results come in, you know, do you always look out for, how have Orient done, how have West Ham done, how have Swindon done?
Yeah, I think you do tend to.
Yeah,
Well, I know you do. You know, and I speak to a lot of other players and contacts into teams that they've been at. And you know, I suppose it also depends on how your time was at that
yeah,
football club, because I'm sure that there's some players that have left certain football clubs and hope they don't win every game once they've left. You know, but you watch it from afar and you see all the stuff that's going on in football, and especially clubs that I've been at. You know, your Portsmouths, your Readings.
yeah,
Obviously, West Ham going into a new stadium not so long ago, and obviously Orient, and it's uncertain times for a lot of those lower clubs, and it's
yeah,
difficult, and even the bigger clubs, because you know their expenditure is unbelievable nowadays with everything. But you know, it's we just all hope that we get through it, and you know, supporters can get back inside the stadiums. That's the main thing, and I think it's the one thing that no disrespect, the normal average working bloke, woman wants to go and do is go and support their team
yeah.
and have that to look forward to on a Saturday afternoon.
Mm.
And you know, more often than not, probably vent a little bit and get it out of the system so the
Yeah.
old man don't get it when you get home. You know.
It's so true, and it's like I thought about the other day. So interviewing a guy who's been like a season ticket holder at West Ham for like 50 years, and you know, for them that was like every Saturday, home and away, home and away, home and away. And for the last year, he hasn't done any of that. And it's like you know, it's just so bizarre when you think about, you know, how far everything's changed. It's like, what I don't like at the moment is all this behind closed doors is like the normal at the moment now. Do you know what I mean? It's like the normal. It's going to be weird when we go back into the stadiums.
Well,
Hopefully next season.
I think what you found, Russ, is that some players now have found it a lot more easier to play
Sure.
with the fact that they haven't got supporters on their back,
Yeah.
or an opposition crowd on their back, and there's going to be another change when it does get, you know, opened back up again. In that, then these players now have got to really sort of, you know, reset the start button to
Sure.
having crowds back inside the stadium. I know we're going off track with, I think it's in India this weekend. They're talking about letting 15,000 supporters in,
Yeah.
and the cricketers are turning around and saying, "Well, we haven't had it for so long that it'd be nice to have them back in, but it's a different pressure."
Yeah.
So, you know, everyone is different and how they deal with it. Some people love it and thrive on it. Some people love on the fact that supporters get on their case and it just thrives them on to turn around and be, you know,
Yeah.
do even better. But and I think this is why you're seeing a lot of indifferent results at the moment.
Yeah. Totally. No, I totally agree. And I think it's almost like it's like when it first happened, there was a massive drop in sort of just quality, and I think as well, because as you said, people getting used to it, and then they're sort of getting used to it again, and just, it's not really a home and away situation now, is there? It's like it's just a bizarre, you know, sort of cavernous stadiums people are playing at the moment, and it's just I think the sooner we get people back in, the better. To be honest, I
Well, I
think the
think you
players need
almost
it.
get to a stage, Russ, where it's almost like, even though you're playing for points and, you know, to go up, or, you know, get out of a relegation zone or push for Europe, that
Yeah,
it's almost got a little bit of a friendly intake on it, if that
yeah,
makes sense,
yeah,
at the start of the season when you go to these stadiums and you play behind closed doors friendlies. You know, I know you have
yeah,
22 odd players and making changes here, there, and everywhere. But you know, that's the only way that I can liken it. So when I played, it's almost just a behind the closed doors game where
yeah.
there isn't as much pressure. So that's how you're probably getting different performances.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I totally get that. But we'll see what happens. As I said, we lost. West Ham lost obviously the other day in the cup, so it's all about the league for us now. So here we go. Here we go. As you said, it's just typical. There's no bloody fans in the stadium, but it is what it is. That's why we lost, I think, because we didn't want Martin Able to lift the cup to an empty stadium. That was why. You see, it's all
Well,
part of the plan.
that's the thing. That's the thing, isn't it? You know, apart from, I mean, obviously this season that when it was still played in the, or last season now with the FA Cup and Arsenal lifting it, it must be the weirdest feeling in the
Yeah,
world. And the same with the Champions League. that you just don't know what it must feel like to. It's great that you've won it, but it's not the same as winning it in front of your
Yeah.
supporters,
Yeah.
and I hear a lot about the FA Cup and should teams put weakened teams out and what have you. And I think the reward is so rewarding now in the Premier League that if you're in West Ham situation, and I think the prime example is Antonio, that you can't afford to lose him.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether going into the transfer market and getting a new striker, that if you lose him, I'd say not. Then you're struggling to probably make top six. Whereas now you've got a great chance, and why not?
Yeah, definitely. No, I totally agree. I think sixth is more than achievable based on the run we've got and the teams are playing. So, yeah, we'll see, man. It's the West Ham way, isn't it? We know it's the West Ham way. Now, obviously, talking about West Ham and you, Adrian. Obviously, you signed in August, like '94, I think it was, and I believe actually you lived about 4 doors down from me in Queen's Road in Loughton.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, I would have done because I think it was my first house that I bought, and I'd actually come back from Swindon, believe it or not, and I think I know it was when Joey Beauchamp, the infamous Joey Beauchamp, went to West Ham, and I think even as he was signing the contract, he was sort of suggesting to himself that he'd made the wrong decision, and I'd caught wind of it, and there'd been some stuff in the paper, and of course we got relegated that season out of the Premier League, and it was our first game back in the Championship, and as per normal, the game was a week before the start of the Premier League, and I played that game on the Saturday, and still knowing that there was an interest, and fortunately enough for me, I managed to get the move to West Ham. I don't think it was probably the ideal deal that they were looking to do, but it was the only way that they were probably going to get Joey Beauchamp off the books and get one in, and they obviously felt that they needed a centre half, and probably maybe I was just sort of the next part of the jigsaw, so to speak.
Yeah, sure. And the transfer itself, I mean, obviously, what when he said when West Ham were, as you said, because he's been relegated the season before, so he's probably always looking to maybe get back into the Premier League, I'd imagine. And so when you heard wind of it, you thought, okay, well, I'll have some of that. I'll have some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it was quite ironic that obviously Johnny Moncur had gone in the off season to West Ham, who was a very good friend, obviously another Loughton boy, and playing colleague Nicky Summerby, who I was living with down in Swindon, he got his move to Man City, and I said, look, I think there may be a chance that I could end up at West Ham, and was very fortunate enough that I wanted to remain in the Premier League, because obviously that's the league where you want to turn around and put your skills, and obviously coming home to a certain degree back into Essex, being an Essex boy, and obviously starting in the East End at Leyton Orient, it was a great move for me personally.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously you'd have been under the stewardship of Mr. Redknapp at that time, kind of. How was Harry? How was Harry as a manager?
I think Harry was more of a man manager than anything else. I mean, like you said, we're going to go into the depths of the squad and the players that he had to deal with. So you can imagine, back in the day, dealing with those types of players. I think it was more man managing, than nowadays. The game has changed so much, and I was trying to even think to myself that, when was the first time I started watching? It was actually back in the day, a video of playing an opponent and things like diet. We were pretty much left to our own devices. So Harry was there with Frank Lampard Senior, and to be honest, I think it was very difficult for me, because you still had Alvin playing, and Potsy, and obviously the situation also arose because Simon Webster had broken his leg in pre-season. And obviously that was a very, very nasty injury that actually ended up ending his career. He tried to come back from it. So, I was still a young boy, really. I was 20, 22, 23 years of age. And, no disrespect to Swindon Town, but you're going to West Ham United. It's a far bigger football club. pedigree in obviously what was the old Division One and obviously Premier League now, and it was a challenge for me, because obviously you had what you could probably call nowadays the old school in Potsy and Alvin playing together, and I came in, I wasn't going to go straight into the team. I was kind of a stopgap of what happened with Joey. Let's be honest.
Sure.
But the one thing that I did, I just kept my head down and worked hard.
Of course,
And I thought my chance would come, but it didn't really materialise. And I picked up an injury as well that was very long term in the end. That unfortunately at the time nobody had ever heard about. And I tried playing with it and probably was never. I mean, I know no pro's ever at 100%, but I was nowhere near probably even 88, even 88, 85% in trying to play. You have to play at your maximum in the Premier League, and I was training and taking days off, and it got to the stage where I could barely walk after training. I was trying to take the weight off of my heel, and the injury was the plantar fasciitis, and it hindered me for a very, very long time.
Yeah. And as you said, I mean, you had Alvin, you had Steve Potts, you had Slav, you had the emergence of Rio. As another centre back, that was four already. Arguably West Ham legends, really, in the game. They became. It must have been really, really tricky. I mean, obviously, when you went, you knew that was going to be the case. You knew there was going to Alvin and Potsy were there and stuff. So, again, as you said, you had to just keep your nut down. And I mean, you still ended up with injury and stuff, and obviously those four centre backs in front of you, really. I think you've made, was it 14 first team appearances? To be honest, Adrian, there's people, there's hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people who would swap their life for you just because you walked out of the pitch at Upton Park and stuff, innit? So
yeah, I mean the bowling ground was an unbelievable ground for atmosphere, and some of the games, even when I was just even sitting on the bench, at the end of the season when we played Manchester United and beat them, and it stopped them from winning the league, and I always knew that I was going up another step in level when going to West Ham.
Yeah.
But do you know what the funny thing is? I don't think there's too many nowadays. I just wanted to play. I wanted to play football. And, even playing reserve team football for West Ham was an honour. But I wanted to get back into that first team environment, because that's all I'd ever known. As a young kid growing up, at 17, I was playing first team football. So to then come to a place like West Ham and probably have to sit there with Alvin probably coming to the end of his career, Steve Potts being a fan favourite, Slaven coming in, Mark Reaper coming in, and then obviously the emergence of Rio sort of in the final year of my contract. And that was tough because obviously, like everybody knows, Rio talent was unbelievable at such a young age. But I always remember it. We went away to Arsenal at Highbury, and Arsenal was my team. As a kid growing up, I supported Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I was in the squad, and we just signed Paolo Futri, and he came across, he was all flamboyant, and we turn up at the stadium, and Harry names the team, and Paolo's in the starting 11, and he said, "I'm not playing." And Harry was like, "What do you mean I'm not playing?" He said, "I'm not playing. I have to wear the number 10 shirt." And at the time, Johnny Moncur was wearing the number 10 shirt.
Yeah.
And I think they'd done some deal in the end where I think Monkey got maybe a holiday out of him or something and gave him his number 10 shirt. But in that game, he got taken out of the squad. So obviously the squad players were upstairs in the players' lounge in the clock end, and they got a call down, can the rest of the squad go down? And Rio would travel with us. Rio made the bench and I didn't, and I was absolutely fuming, because Rio was at the time still a young kid.
Yeah, of course.
And you think you're the next one in. And I always remember after the game, we were about to walk back to get on a team bus, and Harry's walking towards me, and he acknowledged me, and I learned a lesson that day. And I'll be totally honest with you, I blanked him. I ignored him because I was so upset. And he sort of said, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "Harry, I just want to play." I said, "If I can't play, whether I'm good enough or not, if I can't play, I need to go elsewhere because I just want to play. I don't want to sit around. And of course, then, you know, after that, then I went out on loan to Portsmouth, and the rest is history, so to speak.
But I think that's a credit to you, Adrian, in that, you know, so you said a lot of people are happy just to sit on the bench and are happy to, you know, pick up their wage check, and even it seems more days in the modern game now, so to speak.
I think I might do nowadays, Russ, to be fair.
Yeah, I think in terms of how much they earn, I'll sit there. I'll keep the bench warm, even if it's minus whether it's 21 or whether it was last night. I'll do that for 50 grand a week, 100 grand a week. So yeah, but I know what you mean. At least, you know, you know, and that does take. I think it does take bottle to say someone's a Harry Redknapp, who's such a, you know, icon, to say, actually, no, I'm pissed off, mate. I want to play football.
I think he valued it, Russ. You know, I think
definitely.
Because later during that week we'd had I think we were having a training session, and God bless him, because he's no longer with us now. Les Seeley was with us at the time, and something had happened from the corner, and Les let rip at me. And don't forget where he'd been and what he'd done. You gave him total utmost respect, but it was one of those situations where I thought, you know what, whether I was still uptight from the weekend, I'm not accepting that. You know, and I had a jab back at him, and then Harry went after training, fair play. You know, you were right, and it was just, I think in the end, he respected the fact I just wanted to play.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, you know, you mentioned Les. Also, we've had Joe on the channel, his son, and various others. I mean, you've mentioned a few of those players. I mean, you know, there was a lot of big personalities in that dressing room at that time. As you said, Monks and Bish and people like that. I mean, what was training like with them lot around all the time?
I mean, training was brilliant. You know, I mean, just to be able to go out and train with those guys. That's why I went back to West Ham. You know, from Swindon. You know, I wanted to be against those high caliber player, but you know, it was a group. It was, in actual fact, it was pretty much a very tight knit group. You know, irrespective of whoever came in. I think, and the funny thing is, even though this young kid from Essex at 22 years of age was amongst established pros, you know, you're talking pros that were established. It was difficult, but I think they accepted me. You know, they liked me, and you know, I felt as if I was part of their group. And I always remember when Slav came in, you know, and he said to me one day, he said, "I can't understand why you're not playing." And again, look, the game's all about opinions, and I'm sure there's West Ham fans tenfold will turn around and say I was rubbish or this, that, and the other. But when Slav had said it to me, I thought, do you know what? It's actually really nice to hear. You know, that he could see something in me on a day-to-day basis in training that he felt warranted a place in the team, or at the very least playing in the Premier League. And so that was nice. But in the end, like you say, it didn't work out, and through injury and not being selected, and the emergence of Rio, Slaven then coming in with Mark Reaper, I pretty much knew then that I wasn't going to get in the team because they were international players.
Sure, of course.
And you know, in the end, I think I made the right decision because I went to Portsmouth and I played all the games for the rest of the season whilst I was on loan, and then made the transfer permanent and was made captain the following season.
Yeah, I mean, you played loads of games at Portsmouth, 130 odd games, 140 games, something like that, wasn't it? It was, and as you said, it definitely was the right decision. And obviously, after you finished, after you retired, you know, we're just touching it because I love, because we've had like people like Pete Butler on who's like Liberian team manager, and he's Botswana, and you've had a bit of travelling. You've had a bit of travelling on the old management front, haven't you, in the coaching side? Bahrain under 23s and Puerto Rico. You know, you've done all right, and you know, you've got your
miles on. Do you know what, Russ? The funny thing is, and probably, well, a lot of people will know about it now because obviously with Martin Allen as his assistant, and to this day, and I was racking my brain how it actually all came about. And you know, obviously Martin was at West Ham the same time I was there. Martin then went off to Portsmouth, and then I went on loan and travelled with Martin down to Portsmouth via car because obviously I was only on loan. So that's where our relationship built up. And even with Peter Butler, I've still kept in touch with Butts because of him being overseas and what I've been doing. And it was only really after me and Martin lost our jobs at Leicester that the opportunity to became available to go overseas. And I thought I was going on a 3-week holiday to the Canary Islands, and it was a 3-week holiday to the Caribbean to set up the Puerto Rican national team, and that's how it all developed the overseas. And probably maybe now it may have hurt me a little bit in the fact that I went out overseas and you're generally forgotten pretty quick, just as much as a player. But the experience that I had in going to see different cultures and different environments of playing styles in top Mexican leagues, Honduras, Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean culture, the South American, North American culture was invaluable to me. And I think it was like when I played, it's great playing in the English Premier League. You kind of then look back and say, well, I did have a very good career pretty much then in the Championship. But the one thing I never did was play overseas. And when you look at it now, you think, I wish that maybe I'd gone and done that. But it was never kind of around in those days,
No.
It only just sort of started to happen. And, the coaching overseas has been great, dealing with different people. Like I say, a lot of politics go on behind the scenes in Bahrain. But that's the same in football anywhere, and that's how you deal with it. And I think that just adds to learning more about the game as a coach.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we've had Butts on. I mean, it's brilliant. Yeah, he was in Liberia when we interviewed him, which is brilliant. I just find it's incredible, actually. But you forget. I think you get outside it. I think we always think of football in this sort of like English bubble, don't we? And it's actually, when like his story when he's like been in like prisons watching a prison match in terms of trying to get,
Russ, when I first went out to Puerto Rico, I went back for the second time because the old Northern Ireland international, Colin Clark, was taking over, and he used to come and do the club team as well.
Yeah.
And when I went out there, he said, right, I need to go and stay with the players, because obviously we were playing in an American league, and it's such a big country that you're traveling everywhere by plane. But so initially, to start, when you're bringing the players in, you can't just tell them to jump in their car and drive into training. You've got to fly players in from the West Coast, pick them up at the airport and bring them in, and then take them to sort of live somewhere for a month until their accommodation's ready. And I always remember we had to literally go to the equivalent of IKEA in Puerto Rico and buy flat pack beds and duvets and set them all up, because you wanted to be professional, and then have the main director of the football club trying to jimmy the light switch to turn around and make the electrics work. And then when you've got all the players in, manager says, well, I'd like you to stay with him, but there's not a bed for you, so you sleep on the kitchen floor. Again, I've learned a lot of this from Martin Allen, if I'm being totally honest. And I think everybody knows Martin's, you either love him or you hate him. He's Marmite, isn't he? Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
That's how people can be with him. But his loyalty and his man management towards players was second to none in making sure that they could turn around and just come and play football when they did, and taking an interest in their well-being outside of the game and not just forgetting about them. It's become a massive thing nowadays. And I think even from the Europeans that come in now, that when they come into a club like West Ham, they've got a chaperone that looks after them and takes them and gets them used to the environment. And but my brother always says to me, I don't know why you don't keep a log of it and write a book, because of the stories and where I've been and what I've done. And the reason why we're talking this morning, is to just get a little bit of an insight into what's been going on and how football does work. Like I say, I'm not in the game in a coaching capacity at the moment. I'd love to get back in. I'm trying to find other ways to do things. At the moment, I'm helping out with actually taking vulnerable disability children to school. So, I can't sit still. I don't like sitting at home.
Yeah.
That's the other side to me, and I think that's why people can relate to me, is that I'm just a normal bloke. And I've never ever changed, Russ.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I mean, to be honest, I've been Puerto Rico. It's a beautiful place as well. Like up the rainforests. Oh, I love it.
If someone had said to me, Russ, and I was funny, I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I've said it a few times. If someone was to offer me a contract of 10 years guaranteed, and you kind of just get through, the quality of life is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I was waking up when they got the football club running, and it happened on 3 separate occasions for me because I went from the assistant to the coach, and then the team folded, and a new team came back, and I took over as the head coach and had to set up a brand new team. And I was very, very lucky. Was I lucky? Well, no, there must have been something about me that they liked. They wanted me to come and be their head coach. And I was literally a width of a road, living in this apartment overlooking the ocean, going in and training at 6 o'clock in the morning because you couldn't train past 10 o'clock because it was too hot. Finishing by 12 o'clock. There wasn't really any scouting to do because the country was too big and we didn't have the budget for me to fly out here, there, and everywhere and watch things online. And it was, and I do think it added probably years to my life. And that was the one thing that I did notice, that when I did come back from being overseas, that everything is so quick over here. Everything is so quick, and it is a lot more stressful.
Yeah. No, I get that. Get that totally. Yeah. I remember once when I was in Puerto Rico, we jumped in a cab and just asked a bloke to just show us around. And I think we was in the cab for about 15 hours. He was just showing us everything. He showed us the battle site. He took us up to the rainforest. No, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing was, I found the people in Puerto Rico so accommodating.
Yeah, definitely.
I learned a little bit of Spanish, and when I tried it and I got it wrong, they laughed, but they loved the fact that you tried. And every morning when you woke up and you walked somewhere, it didn't matter who it was, they always said good morning. I relate to it again. I remember the first year after being away for a whole year, I went out in Epping, went to get a coffee, and I opened the door for someone, and this probably an elderly couple walked out, and I went, good morning, opened the door to them, and they walked straight past me, Russ, and they must have thought I was some form of serial killer or something, because it was just like it wasn't the norm. And I think that's the way.
That's Epping for you, isn't it? That's Epping for you. That's it.
So I think there's a lot to be said for it. It doesn't, especially now in today's climate, it doesn't take much to say hello and good morning, does it?
It's true, actually. And I think, if anything, looping back to the whole thing that's happening at the moment, I think people, when you walk down the road, and people seem a lot more, hello, how are you? Because they probably haven't seen anyone, to be honest, for a day. And so, like the other day, I was walking up to the co-op. That's how I roll, Adrian. Walking up to the co-op, living the dream, and 3 people said hello to me in about 5 minutes. It was so bizarre, and people I don't know, but no, I know what you mean. I think
also, Russ, like you said, back when the initial first lockdown happened, I know we're a little away from football at the moment, but the sunshine made such a massive difference to people's lives. I've noticed recently with waking up early and doing it of school running around and what have you for these kids, that it's starting to get lighter. It's getting lighter in the evening. I know we had the snow. And I was sat in the car the other day with the personal assistant that was helping out with the kids. And I said to her, look, I know we're fully clothed here now at the moment. I said, but vision this, the sun's out. I know it's cold outside, but you could be wearing a pair of shorts. And we're not far away from that. You know what I mean? We just got to get through this next 6 to 8 weeks, and then we'll be back flying again.
Hopefully, he's hoping, mate. Right, okie dokie. Let's talk about your Hammers 11. So basically, everyone we've had on the channel, bar Harry actually, and Bish, actually thinking about it, has given an 11. So for the fans, we get to pick players they've been alive to see play, but for the players, we like to pick people that they worked with at that time at West Ham, played, trained, etc. And you've got quite. There's. As I said, we've probably interviewed quite a few of the people that you're probably going to put into your team as well, which is quite good. So that's what we'll do, and everyone loves it because it's just a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun, And you can pick yourself, Aid, if you want to get those appearances back up, mate.
I don't think I could with those players. I'm going to tell my name.
Well, unsurprisingly, it's probably some of them you have picked themselves in their team, I'd imagine, just because of who they are. Right? Okay, so probably the easiest one is probably in goal for you, I reckon, isn't it? Maybe
Ludo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
say. He was a specimen, and even when we had pre-seasons, he was at the front of running. He was a machine. So and he was. He didn't speak loads of English, but he had a sense of humour and he was quite funny. When he smiled, he had a great smile. So yeah, definitely Ludo in goal.
Yeah, top man, lovely guy. Right, let's go. What do you want to play? 4-4-2? Is it easy enough?
I was working this through my head, Russ. I think I might have to play a 4-4-3-3, 4-5-1, just for getting the personnel
Okay, all
personnel
right,
in.
okay. I like it. I like it. Right, okay. Let's see what I can do on when we're going. Right, okay, let's go. All right, let's pick another probably easy one. Let's go left back. Who would be left back for you?
Norm, Julian Dix.
Yeah.
I don't think he was there initially, or he just left the first time I went there. But then Harry brought him back, and of course, reputation leads before itself. He was a West Ham legend icon, and again, just watching this player come back in, and we all know that he'd had the knee injury. And do you know what? The funny thing is, I hit it off with him. I got on really well. I got on really, really well with him. And I always remember we were two stories. We were away at an end of season trip in Spain, and I won't name names. Norm was flying at the time at left back.
Yeah.
And we bumped into the assistant manager of England out in Spain.
Yes.
And I always remember it because Norm was really opinionated, and Norm was like, "If you love him or you hate him, don't worry, I'm not bothered." And the quote that came out, he said, "Well, if you grow your hair, I can get you in the England squad." And he looked at
me.
me.
You know what? We had Jules on. We had Jules on about 2 weeks ago, and he said that exact story about John Galt.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant. And then I remember, I think I was actually in the team to play. So normal standard procedure. We all go out about 2:15 to do the warm up.
Yeah.
And this was the first time that I'm in the same starting 11 as Norm, and he's just got his slip on and pair of shorts.
Yeah.
I said, Jules, you're not coming out to warm up? Well, you can imagine, sack all that. So what are you going to do? No word to a lie. He had the hottest bath. He had 1.5 litres of Coke. He laid in the bath, drank the 1.5 litres of Coke, and just went out and played.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable,
Yeah.
I mean, it just wouldn't be known of nowadays,
No.
and that's how he was. And the final one on Julian was we had a pre-season down in Bournemouth, and Harry decided to bring in a fitness coach, and I think we were doing some stretching. So obviously I was open to it, a young boy, I'm going to do what I'm told because this is the way it goes.
Yeah.
And Harry said to Julian, you've got to start stretching. Julian's like, I don't do all that, and he tried doing it, and he pulled his hamstring because he wasn't used to stretching. So he's what West Ham's all about. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Definitely. And as you find out, I did ask you that question. I said to him, because I like to be a bit silly, I said, Julian, why didn't you ever warm up? And he told me, he went, Harry made me warm up once, and I came back in and told him I'd done my hamstringing. And he said, yeah, exactly what he did. Hot bath, 1.5 litres of Coke and a Mars bar. And it's like...
He used to go out before training, and he used to literally just run out, full steam, sprint out onto the training pitch, get to the top of the 18-yard box and just smash balls as hard as he could in the back of the net.
Mental, isn't it? It's incredible now. When as you said, as a coach as well as a manager of you now, it's like if your players were doing that, you'd be like, "What?" They wouldn't have a chance doing that.
I think that again, the game has changed now.
Yeah,
and the sports science and what have you. But that sort of type of player with that sort of reputation, that's what he does, and that's what gets the best out of him. Then you have to kind of let him go and be how he wants to be.
Exactly. Right, we'll put Jules on the left. Then let's go right back. He'll be right back.
This was difficult. There was probably two in the equation: Kenny Brown and Timmy Breaker.
Yeah,
and probably more for his up and down than anything else was probably I went with Timmy Breaker.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was one of those players, and again, it's like because he was so consistent, people tend to forget about him. Do you know what I mean? It's like 7 out of 10 players, no one ever seems to remember. It's always the guys who do an 8 and then do a 4, or the really, really crap ones, or, but the guys who are just consistent. And as you said, just the way I watched loads of his old clips and old matches over lockdown, the way he said he just bombed like a modern day right back, really, wasn't it? So it overlaps quite a bit. And
well, the roles change now. Back in the day, like you said, you never noticed a right back. He was just a right back. Whereas nowadays, your fullback's a part of your attacking force.
Yes.
They're such a key component of a team, whether they're a wing back or a full back. They've got to get forward. They've got to bomb up and down. They've got to get into the back post and score a goal here and there. And you only have to look at the two full backs at Liverpool. You know, they're
Definitely,
a prime example of what the modern day fullback is about.
yeah, definitely. Right, okay, so that's it. Timmy's in. Right, centre halves. First centre half. Who's going to be your first centre half then?
Slaven,
Slaven
definitely Slaven.
Bilic.
You know,
Yeah,
just as a, you know, he's a very, very good footballer. You know,
yeah,
and you know, but on top of it as well, he was a proper bloke. You know, I mean, I think when they all were. You know, like I
yeah.
said, I got on with all of them, but Slav would be the first one in, and then alongside him, even though you know Rio was a youngster, he was really at the start of the end of my reign there, so I never really got to see him in the
No,
first team
no, no.
environment. Um, Alvin was coming to the end as well. Potsy was borderline that. So the other one would be Mark Reaper.
Oh yeah, great shout. Again, he's another guy that I think he doesn't get as much credit as when he was, because he was just like, I forgot about him really, to be perfectly honest. It was only when you start watching these again. But him and Slack, that sort of that was a good partnership there. And there's
Yeah,
a sense about, you need a good partner, don't you? It's like now with Dawson and Ogbonna. Hopefully Ogbonna, if he's not injured.
yeah,
It's so important. Everything, if you get a good centre back partnership, it seems everything else hangs off it. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, Reeps was
absolutely.
a great player,
I had,
big
I
fan.
had one partner, Russ, where down at Portsmouth, named Andy Orford. He won't
Yep.
mind me naming him. And we used to play alongside each other. And one day the ball went over the top of his head, and he weren't the type of player. He hated running. And he looked at me, and it was on his side of the pitch and down his channel. He looked at me, and he just said, "Whit, can't get there." And he just point blank, he refused to run, and I had to run from the other side of the pitch over. And like you said, but we laugh and joke about it nowadays. But
Yeah.
that's what you knew. You knew what people's strengths and weaknesses were.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Right, okay, Date. So we got Reeps, we got there's a back four, we got Ludo. Right, okay, let's go into midfield. Right, whatever formation you're going to play, who's going to be your first person?
Okay, so first one, I'll put it's got to be my old boss, Martin Allen. I've got to have
Yeah,
Martin in there. You know, not just as a friend. He was loved. He was loved at West Ham just
yeah,
because, you know, you know, I've got great memories with him as a player, but also as a coach, and still speak to him nowadays. And I always remember the story. I don't think it was probably until the last 5 years. Bearing in mind, I've known him for 25 years,
yeah,
and at one point he was trying to lose the name tag of Mad Dog because obviously he, you know, he'd spoken to people and they felt, is it hindering him in sort of getting work as a manager and the
yeah.
way that the game's going? And I said, Gaffer, where'd you get that name from? And it was through Bish.
Yeah.
he said, he said Martin was playing in this game and Bish looked over to him and Martin had all this saliva and drooling down his mouth. And Bish went, "You look like a mad dog," and that's how it stuck.
Funny,
And
isn't it?
you know, and again, funny enough, watching the clips recently myself, some of the stuff that came up on social media, he scored some great goals,
Yeah,
and
some really good
and
goals.
he could strike a ball really, really well. You
Yeah,
know, and so he had a little bit of bite in him. You know, I don't think he was. You know, you're probably out and out holding midfielder, tackling and heading,
yeah,
but he had a streak about him as well. He knew how to when to put his foot in. So he'd be one of the three. And then because I'd seen him at first hand when I went to Swindon, and obviously once he'd left Tottenham, Johnny Wonka,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, he always wanted the ball. He always wanted the ball. He didn't care where he was. And another one, probably from the Lunatics Asylum, if I'm being totally honest, if I can say that.
Yeah, no,
You
definitely. I
know,
mean, yeah,
you know, yeah, this is
totally
kind of
agree.
why this is kind of why I'm matching them all together because even if they can't play together, they'd be fun to watch.
It
Um,
certainly would be.
you know, so Monkey would be in there with the Mad Dogs, so there's two,
Yeah.
and then the third one would be Bish.
Oh God, that's just like.
I don't know
Oh
whether it's a team of footballers or a team that go out and socialise or did back in
yeah,
the day.
yeah, exactly. It'd be a good night out whenever they're out. That's be for sure. But I
And
mean,
and,
yeah,
and and like I said, Russ, maybe that was a problem. My problem, I got on too well, and they were older pros,
yeah,
and I was a younger pro, and I just got on really even well with Bish. We'd go around his house and socialise with him and his wife, and you know, he was a nice bloke outside of the game as well, but wanted to play. And you know, he'd done some things with the ball, and you go, wow, that's incredible.
yeah. Yeah, he was, and I think that we had. I mean, we've had all three of them on, and with I think with Monks, we were talking to him about his partnership with Bish because that became sort of pretty much that sort of mid-90s was the partnership.
Yeah,
And he said, you know what, right? Because I said, you had some good teams. You had your Arsenal. You had some big midfielders, and no disrespect to the two of you, but you weren't big boys. And he said, you know what, Russ? There was a period. It might have been arrogance, but there was a period that season, where we'd have beaten anyone. We'd have taken anyone that time, in midfield. And I totally believe him as well.
yeah. I mean, no disrespect between probably Monks and Bish. There probably isn't a tackle between them,
No, exactly.
and but they'd have a go, and
Yeah,
Monks would have a go with a 2-footer as well, and again it would rile up the West Ham supporters because to get behind them and they go, yeah, we'll have some of this.
yeah,
Again, that's the old East End culture, isn't it? That's what people wanted to see. Yeah, they want to see skill
yeah,
and ability, but they just wanted to see people have a go. And Monks was one of those, and he didn't care. He'd get on the ball and he just want to pass the ball. And what great characters off the pitch as well. They're
yeah.
unbelievable. Like to be in their company, and some of the memories are unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny when we interviewed Monks. He was like, because obviously he's calmed down a little bit now in older life. And then when we started talking about, and he started coming out, you could see his little glint in his eye, and he was like, "Oh," and it was just like Tourette's. It was literally story after story after story about,
Well,
you know,
we had one Russ in Swindon, so
yeah,
we couldn't win a game. Like to start the game, the start of the season, jumping up from the Championship
sure,
to
yeah,
the Premier League, and Johnny Gorman was the manager. And we were playing QPR on the Wednesday night. We weren't sure it was going to happen because it had come down with snow on the Monday. And he said, "Well, we can't get on the training field." He said, "Well, what we'll do is we'll go for a walk and a jog, and we'll have a bit of lunch at the pub." This is on a Monday night, by the way, or Monday afternoon. So halfway through the afternoon, he said, "Right, lads, make your way home. There's no rush to leave now." Well, the game's not going to be on, is it? It's too much snow on it. We'll stay in the pub. Stayed in the pub, come out of there, and then got back to the training ground. We're like, "Where's Johnny Wonka? Where is he?" Next thing we know, the minibus is going flying around the training ground, training people, doing on break turns. It was incredible, It was
oh, brilliant.
incredible. And lo and behold, what happened on the Wednesday night? The game got played. We beat QPR and won our first game. Just doesn't
Incredible.
make sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. But that was that,
No,
as you said, that was the era. I mean, we interviewed who did we interview? We interviewed Trevor Sinclair, and Trevor's like saying obviously because that was the. I mean, when you joined, that was the sort of the first year of Redknapp, and then he had 7 years really of Redknapp, and he was obviously we finished fifth, seventh, eighth, I think as well, and that fifth season, he's sinks when if we'd gone out, we used to go out on a Tuesday night. Harry used to put us say we could go out for a drink on a Tuesday night and stuff, and he says, part of me thinks if we hadn't done that, we might have got into the top four. But actually, because we did that, we became fifth because we had this little team spirit. And as
well,
you said, with Monks and stuff like that, it makes no logical sense at all. But you win your first game.
no, team spirit's a wonderful thing, and it's done obviously it has to be done in different ways nowadays because of social media and unfortunately how people can be
Yeah,
towards professional footballers or sports people when they go out. But we had the same down in Puerto Rico. My manager used to say to me, he goes, "Well, we're making chicken salad out of chicken."
yeah, yeah,
Imagine the word.
yeah.
And it wasn't that. It's just that the boys were so collective and wanted to run through brick walls together. Exactly what you're
Mm,
saying about when West Ham finished fifth and seventh. That you know, it was a fine line. But because we were out the eye line, so to speak, we were
yeah,
down in Puerto Rico, even though we were playing the US League. You know, straight away after a game, it'd be like, right, the boys are going out tonight, and I'd go out with them, and my boss would say, "Go and keep an eye on them and what have you."
yeah,
And
yeah,
it was probably the same back in my day in England. Even though
yeah.
you were professional enough to train hard, work hard, you'd be planning about what you were going to be doing on your Saturday night.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
And I'm wearing this suit to this game. What I'll do is I'll just take my tie off, and I'm
And you
ready to
leave.
go straight out
Yeah,
after the game. And that's how it was. And again, I know nowadays it's changed, but it's a fine line, isn't it? You know, I'd always
Yeah.
come back to, I think, if you're not hurting no one else,
Yeah.
and be a bit smart around the fact of, if you've just lost the game and played awful, well, then you shouldn't be going anywhere near anyway. That's just common sense,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, so yeah, you know, those three would be in midfield, and whether it's because of stuff they did off the field as much as I wanted, but it was a bit of both.
Yeah, a bit of both. We'll go with a bit of both. Yeah, that ain't a bad midfield three. Right, okay. Let's go for your three top. Who's your first one going to be? Then Adrian.
Okay, I had to think about this, and
Mm.
I'm going to throw Stan Lazaridis on the
Oh, do
left-hand
you know
side.
what? Oh, he was one of my idols when I was young. Like old Laser, such a nice bloke.
Well, he was a proper bloke, and do you know what, Russ? He just grew into becoming better and better and better. I mean,
Mm,
obviously, Hastings Away then got called up for Australia
yeah,
for the national team. But he'd score goals, and he could go past the player, and he could put the ball in the box.
and that's I think that's a lost art. I think now in football, or
Well,
maybe
I mean,
it's changed.
I was going through it, and I was thinking probably in that 2 years, stroke 3 years that I was there, because obviously in the third year I left.
Yeah,
I don't think we were really graced with predominant wingers, which was,
no,
well, now the game's gone back again. Now people want wingers; they play them on opposite sides.
yeah,
So there's a little bit of thought that's gone into this. Of my two wide players, Stan would probably be the quickest. But he just was someone that grew and got better with more confidence in that team.
definitely. Yeah, big fan of Laser. Right, okay, he's going to be on the left. Who's going to go on the right then, Adrian?
I had to think about this, and I've gone with Michael Hughes.
Michael Hughes. That, do you know what? I don't think, unbelievably, I don't think Michael Hughes has come up ever. And that's a travesty because he was such a great player for us.
Yeah,
Michael
I
Hughes.
mean, he was a little bit in and out, but again, he was another international, Northern Irish
Yeah.
Ireland international. I mean, I don't think he was electrically quick, but he had ability on the ball, and he would chip in with some decent goals.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I couldn't really. I mean, there was Matty Holmes as well that I thought about.
Yeah,
You know, and I just didn't think. I thought they would be the two most probably productive within the team that
yeah,
I know, that when I played with. You know, Matty again wasn't blessed with pace, but could do a bit and go
yeah,
past the player. But
yeah,
I didn't think within our squads over that 2.5 years there was probably anyone else that I would be able to put out there. Not the fact that I'm just putting him out there, but there was other people that I could have probably thought about putting personnel wise, but they were
yeah.
the two wide players for me.
Front of your mind, no, definitely. Yeah, great shout, Mickey Hughes. Right, so we got Lays on the left, Hughesy on the right. Who's going to spearhead it?
This is going to work into the free midfield and my left back, knowing what they're like outside, or were like outside of the game in socialising. It would have been Don Hutchison.
Bloody hell!
Because again, do you know what? I looked at it and I just thought the fact that coming from Liverpool,
Yeah,
it could have been a little bit of a demotion for him, because he'd been at Liverpool and he'd done well.
yeah,
And again, he probably isn't an out and out centre forward. He's probably more of a number 10, if the
yeah,
truth be known. But within the team that we had, and the strikers that I looked at in Steve Jones, TC, was coming towards the end of his career after coming back. I just felt he was still at a young age around that era, and he could score goals. He had great technique, and
great shout.
another one that would probably go into the lunatic asylum with us all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's somewhat of a lunatic asylum at 11, to be honest. But I mean, Hutch is like, I mean, now West Ham could be playing with a false 9 at the moment. If things are led to be believed with Antonio and whatnot, Hutch would have been a great false 9, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I said. I mean, I was struggling to make him an out and out centre forward, but it was the only way that I could get him in the team with pushing the free in midfield that I had. I
Yeah.
mean, let's be honest. There's probably plenty of goals in that team.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's definitely. I mean, there's goals in that team there. So yeah. So yeah, as I said, there's a lot. You got Laser. I think there's a lot of creativity. Lot of creativity, and as I said, the nights out will be a giggle. That's for
I
sure.
think we'd be the best. We'd be the best 11 for a night out. That's for sure. Even though I'm not. Perhaps I'll just have to be the manager, and I'll just go with
Be the
them and
manager.
take where they come my way.
Yeah, and you got to take them out and keep an eye on them in it around Epping
Yeah.
or you know, in Loughton down the old. I don't know what the pubs were when you were around there. There would have been the Standard. There'd have been
Yeah, the Royal Oak.
yeah, Royal. Oh yeah, the Royal Oak. Yeah, I forgot about the Royal Oak. Yeah, that was the one, wasn't it?
And the drive-by.
Adrian, man, it's been lovely. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time, man. It's been
No, you're welcome.
really fun. Obviously, thanks to everyone for watching as well or listening, whatever you're going to do. If you give it a like, give it a share. And from myself and from Adrian, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Wash those hands. Get your jabs. Come in your irons, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care.
Take care, Russ. Love to you all.